The Gold Cup has come and gone, and I can smell the European seasons coming. What's up, guys? Dave here again with Aaron and Diego for A Soccer Fan Walks Into a Bar. Plenty to review, including the U.S. performance in the Gold Cup final, PL Summer Series coming up, and the culmination of the Club World Cup 2. So stick around. All right, welcome back, guys. The heat wave continues. Diego, Aaron, what's going on? You staying cool?
No, not at
Fine.
all, man. Super freaking hot. What about you, Aaron?
I just spent 30 minutes in AC, so
For
well, a little warm.
for those of you that don't know, the studio here is not air conditioned, so the sacrifices we make for you, the audience, you can
Amen to
you can
that,
feel it.
guys.
We can certainly feel it. So, with that in mind, we'll probably try to go a little bit more brief again today. Thank you for everyone that came upstairs for the Gold Cup final last night. Thank you for listening to our special edition preview show. Now we have a little bit of a review show as well as our normal content. So let's jump right into it. Club World Cup, we'll start there. Um, we are set now for semifinals. The results from last week we'll go over real quick. We had Fluminense beat Al Hilal 2-1. We had Chelsea beat Palmeiras 2-1. PSG beating Bayern Munich 2-0, and a very exciting late match at least. Real Madrid defeating Borussia Dortmund 3-2. That match was, I believe it was 1-0 up until maybe the
Yep,
89th, 90th minute,
yep.
and somehow,
And
four more goals
and
got.
then the gates were
Yeah.
wide open, and that ended up going all the way to the very, very last
Yeah,
play, last
and Dortmund
shot.
had a chance to draw things level again.
Yeah.
So
But you got Courtois
yeah,
behind the goal, so that man just had the save of the tournament per se. Like the way that thing played out, the way the penalty happened right after Mbappe scored, all these situations that just kind of like pile up one on top of the other. That made those like 5 minutes the most exciting 5 minutes I've seen so far in this tournament. And there has been some other really good matches, but those 5 minutes were incredible,
yeah.
incredible.
No. It's again, we've talked about it for quite a while. Whether it was the James Rodriguez and Leon stuff, whether it was the expanded tournament, whether
Yeah.
it was just the scheduling of it all together. Um, Clearly, it's a money grab. But my eyes have been on this competition most of
Yeah.
the time. So
Yeah.
it's you're not gonna take away from that from me
Yes.
at least. Similar to the Qatar World Cup. Yes, we're unhappy about how it all shook out, but I'm
But
gonna watch it anyway.
yeah, a lot of the thing is also this is a money grab. Yes, maybe, but it's been just exaggerated by European press and everything because in our side, on this side of the pond, we are enjoying it very much. The Brazilian teams did really well. We got to see all these teams that you usually don't see. You know what I mean? So for us as a market, that thing is being incredible.
Yeah, I'm also surprised to see how seriously a lot of these clubs, including the European clubs, are taking this competition.
I mean,
Um,
wasn't two of the games sold out too? Like
Yeah.
mo-
they were having issues in the beginning, and then two of the quarterfinals. I think was the
Most of the
Chelsea.
Madrid games have
Yeah,
sold very well. The Brazilian fans have traveled very well. Um, that being said, the Fluminense Chelsea match, which kicks off tomorrow at 3, the tickets are going for like next to nothing. You
No.
can get tickets for like 10, $15. So that being said, if you're in the area, it's at MetLife Stadium.
Come over and check it out.
Go and try to get some last minute tickets and check it out. It should be a good time. I
Yeah.
I have some stuff going on, hopefully, that will preclude me from that. But I was looking at tickets as like a
Yeah.
last minute, just
And
get up and
this
go.
is that match has the biggest storyline per se. We're waiting to see if Chelsea can run the table on the Brazilian teams,
Yeah.
or if Fluminense can finally take down the big bad wolf. You know what I mean?
Well, while we're on the topic, what do you think?
I personally want. I don't think I just want this one. I can't think about it because I'm 0 for 6 in predictions.
Yeah.
So I want Fluminense to go
At
through
least
just
you're
because it's
showing your
Brazil.
consistency at least.
Exactly. I get them all wrong. Don't even worry about me getting anything right now. But no, I do kind of want Fluminense to get through just to, hype up the thing. We already got a couple of English teams. We got a German team. No, German team?
No,
No.
both German teams got
English
got
team.
knocked
Yeah.
out.
So we got Europe. Let's keep
Yeah,
those South American teams in there.
I agree. I would. So what is left is PSG and Real Madrid on the bottom half of the bracket. Chelsea flew on the top half.
Yeah.
Obviously the purists, in the Europeans probably want an all European final.
Yeah.
I personally would like agreeing with you. Regardless of who, I could care less about the Fluminense Chelsea result. But just for the global game, I would like to see
Yeah.
a Brazilian team or South American team competing at in the final.
And I know Aaron agrees with us. Chelsea goes down, no, bro?
Yeah,
Yes,
no
of course.
self-respecting Arsenal fan can allow Chelsea to make a final. The only thing that would be worse is Tottenham finishing 17th place and winning Europa League, right?
Oh.
They had the dust off the cabinet.
Yes, they did. All
Might
right,
as well put
so
something in it while they're
let's move beyond that. Let's go to the other half now. PSG against Real Madrid. PSG on the heels of that 2-0 victory over Bayern Munich, a horror injury for young German phenom Jamal Musiala in that game. Came together with Gigio Donnarumma, and it looked ugly from the beginning. I believe he was diagnosed with a fractured leg, which honestly,
I believe we saw
Yeah.
fracture leg.
Yeah.
That being said, I think, from a medical standpoint, obviously I am not a doctor, but you have to feel pretty fortunate that it's just a broken bone. The bone heals.
Yeah.
Obviously there will be some recovery, some atrophy to the muscles, some recuperation time, but that is 10 times better than
Ligaments or
ankle
muscles,
ligaments,
yeah.
knee ligaments, even just a broken bone in the foot and ankle. There's so many more moving parts. So for it to just be
Yeah.
a broken leg, and I say just, but
Well, like we were talking about it, we all have had some
Yeah.
kind of an injury throughout our lifetime playing soccer, and like we all agree on the same thing. We'd rather have a broken bone than a ligament or a muscle injury because Aaron told me a story. I mean, he got almost all the ligaments on his ankle kind of like pulled away.
Yeah.
And that takes months and months and months to recover.
Yeah, it swelled up to the size of a grapefruit. Almost
yeah,
took about
I,
2 months.
So
there's-
yeah, those
Yeah.
things like that are
yeah, and
just so much
there's
worse.
like I said, there's so many moving parts in there. At least the shin is the shin, and a couple bones in
that's
there.
Could be reset.
Yeah,
healed.
One thing that I have been hearing a lot is the German fans are so angry about this.
well,
They are so upset because they're like, they are one of those people that says that this tournament doesn't matter. They're not even
Yeah.
interested in it. Although it saved their season because Bayern Munich was supposed to lose money this season. And because they're here and because they're where they were, they actually went in the positive.
Yeah,
So
Manuel Neuer also had some not too great things to say about
Yeah.
Donnarumma and just the way it all shook out. But again, they are competitors that I could
The
care
game's
less
gotta
if
be
it's a
played.
Club World Cup or
Yeah.
they're playing Bino in the cantina at lunchtime. They're gonna want to win every single competition.
Exactly.
So,
And that's what you get paid for. So if you get called out, injuries happen. We literally talked about this yesterday. That's what happens in a match.
Yep.
In a one-off match, anything can happen. And if it goes your way, it's great. If it doesn't go your way, things like this happen and these conversations are happening.
All right, so that will do it for Club World Cup action. I'm gonna throw my co-host off here a little bit. We're gonna not go to the break yet. Let's jump to the MLS action. I was at one of the games this weekend, so we'll jump right to that. Then we'll take a break, and then we'll go deeper into USA Mexico and the Gold Cup.
Mhm.
All right, so on I don't even recall what day that was. On Thursday, NYCFC hosted Toronto FC, 3-1 victory. Pretty comprehensive, having Alonso Martinez back. Obviously now post Gold Cup, they'll get Matt Freese back. Their head coach Pascal Jensen was back after some family stuff over in Europe, and they look like maybe they are starting to catch stride here. Obviously, Toronto is. Let's face it, they're not a great team.
Yeah.
But still, they only conceded 2 shots on target. It was nice to see Sean Johnson, former NYCFC goalkeeper, who also actually was the MLS Cup winning goalkeeper for them. He had a nice little ovation from
Yeah.
the third rail and the supporters groups behind his goal, and then promptly gave up two more goals in the second half. So it was nice to see all that, and then still get the big victory. Elsewhere with the Red Bulls, they visited the West Coast, San Jose Earthquakes, and it was a 1-1 draw. Another goal for Emil Forsberg, and he is really, really looking good this year.
He finally took charge of that position that
Yeah.
he was given. Like now, you can see that he's playing like the player that they expected him to be.
Right.
To be honest.
And I mean, between Forsberg and Choupo-Moting, they seem to either or both score almost every single match. Again, the draw away from home, not ideal, but one of the toughest things there is in MLS is getting points on the road, especially coast to coast. So
Exactly,
for them
that's the main
to
thing.
grab that 1 point away from home, not ideal every time, but you'll take it when you can get it. And especially now you have the summer transfer period. I did hear both Red Bulls and NYCFC have been active in the transfer market, so we'll see some incoming transfers in the next few days that once they're finalized, as they make their push for the playoffs, this fall. So, and yet, Diego, did you catch any of the MLS action this week? I know we've been all over the place
We've been
with the
focused
holidays,
on the
with
other
the tap
things,
room,
yeah.
with Gold Cup. So
Sorry for the
No,
sorry for
no.
the MLS right now, but I honestly forgot about it.
Yeah, no, honestly,
I totally did.
if NYCFC weren't home and I got the alert for my tickets, I probably would have totally blanked on me as well. So
Yeah, which shows that this tournament, at least again in this area, it's the Gold Cup and the World Cup has taken relevance for us soccer fans. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it sucks right now that the MLS is going to a secondary place. but
yeah,
even
I've
this-
always wondered why they keep doing this and going opposite. Especially a CONCACAF tournament where you're penalizing your
teams, you're
better
paying your
teams
teams,
for
yeah.
having local talent in with local national teams. But here we are. There's nothing we can do about it. So we'll keep on moving, and MLS will keep playing throughout the summer. I do believe they're taking a break for the World Cup next year. I'm pretty sure I
Yes.
saw that solidified and set.
They better.
Yeah, they have to.
better.
It would be such a bad look from a competitive standpoint to do that.
100%.
So
This year's MLS though does look. It doesn't look like there's a front runner this year, like as opposed to
no, I
previous
mean
years.
Cincinnati looks good again.
Yeah.
Nashville is looking great. Bournemouth alumni Sam Surridge is leading the goal scoring charts for Nashville. I think he's got 16 already this year. Out west, you have your usuals, but again, if we've learned anything from the last few years, it's just get into the playoffs, start getting hot at the right time,
Yep.
and see what kind of run you can
Yeah.
make. So, it's been like that really the last few years. Get a hot goal scorer rather, and a hot goalkeeper, or one or the other, and it really seems to kind of set your playoff mode in motion. So.
Yeah, that is 100% true.
All right, so that's going to do it for that segment. Like I said, just real brief, and we've got plenty to talk about with U.S. Mexico. So we'll be right back, guys. All right, welcome back to A Soccer Fan Walked Into a Bar. We got Aaron next to me. We got Diego on the other side of the room with a separate camera. We are doing all the things. We are sweating. But big stuff now. A review of last night's eye-opening match. I guess we'll call it that. I mean, it was, we we talk out of both sides of our mouth with this, whether it's a cupcake tournament, Mickey Mouse tournament, as you alluded
The
to
trophy,
several
yeah.
times. You know, is this anywhere near our best squad? Is this a time as a proving ground for the likes of Diego Luna? I'm trying to think of who else was in a pivotal role there. Max Arfsten, Sebastian Berlhalter, um, Patrick Aguimang,
Matt Freeze.
Matt Freese, Maurizio Pochettino. You know, all these guys. You know, is this the time for them to put themselves in the shop window and do something? Is this kind of, you know, about what we expected? So let's get to the result. A very early goal, I believe it was 3.5 minutes in, from Chris Richards off a Sebastian Berhalter set piece. A followed up by goals from Raul Jimenez in the 27th minute, and parenthetically, a very nice homage paid to his former Wolves teammate Diogo Jota. And then Edson Alvarez off of another set piece in the 77th minute was all Mexico needed. But realistically, after the goal from the U.S., it was pretty much one-way traffic.
Yeah, the U.S. just sat back,
Yeah,
and it was hard to watch. I mean, as much as I want to say, a quarter of the time they were there, but no, like at least 80% of the
Yep.
time
Yeah.
Mexico was in. They were playing out of their house.
no, I agree. The possession was 60% in favor of Mexico, which honestly surprises me. I would have guessed higher. You know, and even when they took the lead, you know, the U.S. could not get out of their own half. It seemed they couldn't string passes together. You had 518 passes for Mexico, 351 for the U.S. Obviously, much more accurate. I believe, 12 corners for Mexico, not a single corner kick for the U.S. Um, Oddly enough, and I'm just now noticing this, even though, you know, it was both were close with the VAR situation, no offsides from either team in the whole
No.
match. I couldn't
That
believe
is a weird thing. I mean, refereeing was okay. There was the one bone I have to pick with that planting hand.
Oh, the
of the
handball,
ball
yeah.
Planted
that-
hand.
You know,
It's not a penalty, but
if we're gonna split hairs, which, you know, it's a cup final, that's what we're here to do. You know, everyone, referee included, is going to be under the microscope. I thought the referee did not handle the match very well. I thought, you know, he was very tight with his calls early. Then he seemed to let a lot go. Then he went back to tightening things up. Yeah, obviously, you know, we spoke about the handball at length last night during
Yeah.
the match. Um, Diego Luna did not kind of cover himself in glory in that foul that led to the go-ahead goal for Mexico. But that being said, it was a pretty soft foul. You know, yes, Luna's arm was extended out. Based on everything else we saw throughout the game, I
that's exactly what I
thought
was
they
gonna
probably
say.
should have let it go.
They were letting each other play. And Mexico thrives on that type of situation. They know how to tug and pull and trip and do all these things. And because they're the smaller players in size, you know, they kind of like get the benefit of
Right.
the doubt when it comes to refereeing. You know, you got a 6'2" guy against a 5'7", 5'8". You know, you kind of like understand that this other guy, the smaller guy, has to pull out some tricks. But like you said, the inconsistency was the upsetting part. You know what I mean? The goals were there, the things happen, but you gotta be consistent. You gotta call it or not call it both ways.
Right.
You know, that's my personal thought on that situation. And when it comes to refereeing, at least.
Yeah. So let's take, obviously we have a more US centric view on this match. You know, disappointing to say the least. That being said, if you told me with this squad before the tournament started, we're going to lose 2-1 in the cup final to Mexico, I'm taking it.
I'm
Eight,
fine
8
with it.
days a week, I would take that result. Um, who do you guys feel um, overperformed? Who do you feel underperformed? And someone that you maybe thought was going to maybe put themselves into a World Cup squad and now has kind of played themselves out of it. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like Freeze and Luna at least put in their bid for the World Cup position.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, you guys know, you know, I've been watching Freeze for about a year and a half, 2 years now, you know, intently. I'm very bullish on him. I thought he did exactly what I would have expected him to do, and I do think at the very least he's made a very tough decision for the goalkeeping staff and Pochettino, whether it's Matt Freese versus Matt Turner versus Gaga Slonina versus Horvath versus Zach Steffen and Patrick Schulte to go to other MLS names. So I agree. Freese definitely has put himself in the selection realm for this squad.
100%. I mean, personally, and now that you guys, the good performance, I think Berhalter underperformed this tournament.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know what happened. I guess nerves or whatever that was, but tournament wise, yes, he had a part of the first goal in the finals and everything, but there was more low points than high points with him.
oh
Personally.
without a doubt. I mean, a lot of these guys are unproven. You can play all you want, and this is not a knock on any of these other squads, but you can play all you want against the Dominican Republics of the world, the Costa Ricas, the Guatemalas, Honduras, all these squads. Um, but when you go into a final match against a squad like a Mexico, it's put up or shut up. And a lot of the guys, whether it was, Tillman did not have a great match. Um,
Yeah.
to be completely honest, Tyler Adams did not have his best
No,
match
he
ever.
struggled this
He did well defensively. His passing has never been the strongest part of his game, but he did seem to struggle a little bit
Yeah.
with distribution. That being said, so did the rest of the squad. Arston, I didn't think looked great. Diego Luna seemed to look lost out there.
They
But I,
target him.
I was going to say
They
they
played him
Mexico did a
well.
great job of taking him out of the match,
Yep.
Well,
and it almost seemed like he had to come back into the defensive third just to
Well,
get the
he
ball.
kept playing as a right wing.
Yeah,
The coach literally had to come out and say, "I don't want you there.
Yeah.
Stop playing there." And he could be pulled out of it.
but that was
Pushed him
I
out.
mean that was the only spot that he was able to
Yeah.
even come close to getting the ball.
And
So
that's what it was. That was the Mexico tactic or the technique for Luna right there. They just had to get him out of his comfort zone. And they did a good job at it. And again, like I said, referees were letting a lot of pulling and a lot of small fouls. Then again, if those weren't fouls, the sub foul for the second goal shouldn't have been a foul again. That I agree. But in the sense of performance, I like to focus more on the whole tournament. Again,
sure.
this is the big test. This is the time when, yeah, you got the team that is up your level or a little bit above you, and you couldn't get that result, understandably so. But we got to focus on what USA did in the tournament as is. What the players show, what the coach got to see from them. And like we were talking about yesterday, there are levels to these things. The players that are not here, they're undisputable starters. Those are the guys that are going to represent on the real matches in the World Cup. But we needed to see what is beyond that. And I think generally we saw a good outlook on the situation. It looks kind of okay. There's a good thing to salvage out of this tournament when it comes to the young players that kind of like get to prove themselves and get to see some competition on a higher level. But then again, like I said, the one that I believe personally, and I think is the only one, and maybe yes, the rookie part plays, but I think it was Berhalter. Luna did well. All the other guys, um, I can't remember the name of the midfielder that we were talking about. That it's his main job is gather fouls.
Oh, Tillman,
Tillman,
Malik Tillman. Yeah,
even Tillman, he did his job.
Yeah.
He held the ball well. He played like right before behind the strikers, held the ball, controlled the pace, created some good fouls that ended up in goals. So generally and overall, they did a good job. I am all about what happened with USA in this tournament. Mexico was the one that was worried. Mexico got the result they should have gotten. You know what I mean? They were expected to win this. Although we said that our Mexican fans or Mexican friends that are fans of Mexico, they weren't believing too much, but the media expected this. So
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, what happened or what should have happened happened. But USA did well.
Yeah.
They
No,
did
you nailed it. Mexico, their fan base, at least the fan base, that we talk to on a regular basis, very pessimistic. A lot of people honestly, we were joking with them upstairs. Didn't even want to come last night because they felt like they were
Yeah,
going to
we're
lose.
gonna lose.
That being said, so Mexico has now won consecutive Gold Cups. They have a what seems to be a very nice balance of the older guard with Edson Alvarez, uh, uh, oh geez, Raul Jimenez, Santi Jimenez,
Oh yeah,
and then this young kid Mora, the 16-year
he
old.
plays so well. Oh
So
my god.
with all that, what is the outlook for Mexico next summer? What do you guys think? Are they a team to be feared?
I mean, I feel like they're just gonna run it back.
Yeah,
They
I mean,
might be the team of the competition next.
I real especially on somewhat of a home soil, and then obviously all the knockout region games I believe are all in the U.S. But as we've seen before and we'll continue to see, Mexico fans travel well, especially to the U.S.
oh yeah.
Um, it's essentially a full boat home tournament for them. I think Mexico could shock some people and maybe they get to a quarterfinal. Maybe they get to a semifinal with
That would
this
be
tournament.
nice. I mean, I don't go that far. I wouldn't go that far with them though.
What are they? Let me ask you. What are they missing then to get to a semifinal?
Heart. They just don't. They're not playing confidently enough, especially with the bigger teams. I mean, again, not let's not put the teams down that played in this tournament, but Saudi Arabia gave him a good run for the money. Though I said they did play well against them, but what are they gonna do against your Italy's or
Yeah.
your Portugals or like
So I was just talking about this with somebody earlier today, and they asked me because they were like, "Oh, apparently the U.S. took second in a tournament," and I had to explain to them that like Concacaf, Conan Bowl, UEFA, and it's something that we know the U.S. tends to not really think about, but in part of the World Cup, underneath the World Cup, you have the Euros,
Right.
and Euros is UEFA's Gold Cup. The Gold Cup is Concacaf's Euro.
yep,
Yeah,
And
I
it
think
just
a big issue with the Gold Cup is just overall a lack of depth.
Yeah.
You have your top tier teams. You have now then obviously Canada's been playing out of their skin lately, but you have like a Panama, a Costa Rica that they'll shock some teams here and there, but you don't have the depth of CONMEBOL with South America, and certainly not the Euros.
Well, but that's also funny because like when you look at the Copa America only has 10 available countries, so they have to pull from. So that's why the U.S., Mexico,
Right.
Canada, they get the ability to not just play in one Euro. Essentially, they get to play in two because they get the invites to the Copa America.
absolutely. No, you are absolutely
Yeah.
right on that end.
Yeah.
That gives them a little more exposure. And yes, the UEFA, the Euro Cup, does have these big, deep differences between levels of teams. Once you get into the smaller, European teams, you can see a difference, but the level is a lot better now.
Yeah,
They're
I think
more
another
even when it
piece
comes to competition.
of Euros is just politically is not the right word, but just the ease of travel.
Yes.
Throughout all of Europe. Once you're in continental Europe,
Yeah,
it's
no,
nothing.
that's
So
the one thing here that you got to travel everywhere. You got to go to all these islands. You got to go back and forth,
Correct.
and that takes a toll on the player. So it's
Sure.
a more difficult situation and everything. But Mexico,
just
no,
go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the issue too is that there's not enough weight
Yeah.
behind the cups. Again, people in the U.S. stop for the Euros too,
oh yeah,
and
yeah.
it's on everywhere. But when it comes to the Gold Cup,
Yeah, nowhere.
nowhere.
Yeah, that is a fact.
Yeah.
That
No,
is a
you got again nailed it. I mean it's not even, and I'm saying this kind of flippantly because I don't know the full reasoning behind it, but it's not even a big enough tournament for the MLS to stop.
Yeah.
exactly.
It's their Euro, and they won't stop.
And that's the example. Yeah, exactly. That's the example we're giving out. Like the teams that are directly involved in it, are not. Again, we said it yesterday. Are not giving it the importance that it deserves,
Right.
at least for themselves. USA, yeah, they should have just stopped play for the entire month and be like, no, this is what we're gonna advertise. This is what we're gonna focus on. This is what everybody's gonna come and see, and let's build it up. And it's a long way to go, but it will get there. I believe that it will get there. And again, coming back to the topic, Mexico. I don't again, it seems like I'm hating. It really does seems like I'm hating.
It sure
But I don't
does.
see I don't see much on it though. Like that's the problem. Like I wish I could say that Mexico is going to beat USA in the World Cup, but once the the real starters, the European team players come into the USA team, it's a whole different outlook. You know, the middle looks a lot different. The back looks a lot different. The goal, maybe the goalie, I actually believe Freeze earned his opportunity. Even though they lost against Mexico, even though he got 2 goals scored on him, they weren't really his fault. They were just defensive
Oh yeah,
moments.
no, no, I agree. He couldn't have done anything
He
about those
couldn't do
fields,
anything
and
about
he
it. The
and he
first goal
made
was a hell of a
made some
shot,
good saves as well.
and he made some good saves. So he earned his spot. But
Right.
like middle and attack are going to be way different once we get into a nitty gritty of the actual World Cup. Canada is going to be on the same boat. You know, Canada's not going to be messing around. And the result that happens, the way they lost their, their match to qualify to the semis was a fluke. Like, let's face it, like we are happy for Guatemala and Honduras and all that they did, but those things don't happen every time.
All right, so let me put both of you on the spot here. We are
Out of the 3 teams,
we are basically 11 months out from the World Cup. Canada, U.S., and Mexico. Who makes it the furthest?
Now
I am
Mexico.
thinking, USA. Canada's got a good chance,
I-
depending on the grouping.
I see. I think Canada is. Excuse me. I think Canada's kind of. I don't want to say falling off a cliff, but I think their window is closing.
Yep.
And I again these young kids coming out of the Mexican League, and whether it's coming to the MLS and then to Europe or straight to Europe from there, combined with Raul Jimenez, who had that awful skull injury a few years ago, finally seems to really be comfortable and
Oh, yeah.
playing like himself again. You have Santi Jimenez. Yeah, they have the quality there. Um, I do think Mexico can shock a lot of squads
And go
here
far.
and go far in this World Cup next year.
What do you think, my brother?
I have a feeling that CONCACAF's going to be let down.
Yeah.
They're going to be on home soil for that federation, and I feel like they're going to have a hard time.
Yeah. All right. I mean,
Well, the proof will be here in about 11 months.
the pudding will be here in next year.
Yeah, we kick off. I believe I want to say it's June 11th. Is that right? Mid June, I believe.
Yeah. No. I
Is,
think
When do they announce groups?
The group draw I don't believe will be until usually they do it like in the winter, maybe
Okay.
early spring. Because because you have qualifying and then those intercontinental playoffs as well.
So you have at least 5 more months of South American eliminations, I think. No, 2 more months. I'm sorry.
Right? Yeah.
Because
It's,
it's 2
it's
matches
that
left,
that
and they do like
that
once every other month.
that October window, I believe,
That will be the last.
is the last one.
the
But
last
then
one.
from there, you have
the
like
playoffs.
the sixth and seventh places
Yeah,
in
all the
CONMEBOL will
playoffs from
play
all the
Asia and
CONCACAF.
Africa. Yeah, so there's definitely some time left. Once we see the draw, obviously that'll kind of give us a little bit more clarity on who can go further.
Yeah.
But in a vacuum, I really think Mexico has the best shot to make a run out of the three.
Yeah. I'm making haters out of my friends, and you're just
I know. Well,
bringing them all in for you, huh?
I can only I see what I see. Again, nothing would make me happier than to see U.S. and Mexico in the semifinals.
No, and that's what I think it
but
is. USA is going to have the home field advantage. And there is a lot of politics involved. It's not just the play. Believe I was in the receiving end of the last USA World Cup, and we paid a hefty price
Well,
for
yes.
that one. So let's not even talk about that one anymore. But they did really well. They did really well, and just because it was in the United States.
oh, for
There is
sure.
a
for
thing
sure.
about Americans that they will defend their home soil harder than anybody else will. Is that American pride? You know what I mean? And I think that is going to be one of the things that is going to catapult them to do good. Are they going to get to semifinals? That would be super sweet. Maybe not. But I want to say they do get out of the group stages, hopefully. And they definitely win their first elimination.
Okay.
That's my thought. Just out of pure heart. Nothing else but pure heart. They're just gonna play their asses off until there is no more minutes and the referee blows the last whistle.
All right. So on that note, I think we've spoken enough about U.S. Mexico. I think we've you know covered their past and some of their future here.
Yep.
Let's speaking of future, let's jump into what's on tap. I have my notes here. So tomorrow, that's Tuesday afternoon, Fluminense and Chelsea. Then Wednesday afternoon, PSG, Real Madrid. I will have my eyes glued to that one.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
This weekend, we have both NYCFC and Red Bulls on the road at 7:30 on Saturday. So NYCFC is at Charlotte, while Red Bulls travel to Philly. And then Sunday afternoon, the Club World Cup final. Depending on schedules, we'll see if we can maybe get a preview show for that as well. But it should be I'm loving that these weekends are starting to fill up again with soccer.
Yes.
It has me really looking forward to the fall season with Europe coming through, and I talked about it in the open. I can smell the training pitches.
Yes, sir.
I can.
And now you know what? The beautiful thing is that right now we don't have any other sports to watch.
I know.
At least at
Well,
the top room. So
yeah.
we got the freedom of whatever match is on, we just put it on the
Right.
TV and it just plays. And it's great though.
All right, one for the road. Either of you guys have anything?
I do
No.
have one small thing, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like gossip. But, Fenerbahce, it's demanding an investigation on the Turkish league.
The super. I
the-
believe they call that
the
the super
Confederation.
the Super League.
Yes, the Super League with the Confederation because they were outed basically. There were some WhatsApp texts that were leaked from the league, from the actual board of directors of
Wow.
that league about Mourinho and how they just don't want it. They want to get rid of him. And of course, that is discrimination. That is just, there is so many political situations involved with it that the board had to resign. All their entire
Yeah, it
board of
really
directors
is.
had to go. And I understand that is true. I mean, Mourinho is Mourinho, and Mourinho is a controversial man, and he's always been that guy that way. But when you are part of the directive of an organization of the size of a country's league, you have to be more careful about the way you do things.
Yeah, but also, let's look at it this way. I like you said, Mourinho is Mourinho. I agree. But with all the potentially bad stuff that he brings to the league, there's a ton of eyes on this
Yeah.
Turkish league now.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you have, three guys from New York with a small podcast talking about the Super League right now.
The Super League right now, exactly. And that's what he brings to
You
the
know?
table. And that's why the whole controversy, because he really wasn't arguing anything wrong. Like he was just advocating for his players and for the league itself. So like you're trying to help in your own crazy way as Mourinho does, but he tries to help. And the least they should do is kind of like listen to.
Yeah,
the
yeah. No,
situation.
there are certainly things that can go into growing the Super League more. That they the last few years have had some shocks in Champions League and Europa League, and with these larger tournaments now, you're getting eyes on more than maybe just Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, and Besiktas.
Yeah.
There is decent depth in that league.
Yeah.
And again, the eyes that Mourinho brings is good for the rest of the league.
Exactly.
So, all right, mine is, it's always a fun thing. Tomorrow, July 8th, kicks off officially the first matches of the 25-26 Champions League season.
Nice.
So the first round of qualifying starts tomorrow. A lot of league winners and cup winners from let's we'll say it in air quotes, the lesser leagues. Some in Scandinavia, Eastern Europe, all that stuff. But it really, again, it is the official start to the European season with Champions League, and I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. We have the leagues kicking off, I believe, August 15th. I think is the opener with Liverpool hosting AFC Bournemouth, at least in the Premier League. I know the Spanish league starts that weekend. I think the Italian league might be the weekend after.
Yeah.
So we are, about a month and a half away from all the big five leagues, right back at it. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir.
And here we are. So that is going to do it for us this week as we are sweating profusely here in the studio. We need better hair and makeup team so you don't see the shine on us anymore while this heat wave continues. So thank you guys for listening. Be sure to share, like, subscribe on YouTube. Give us a follow on Instagram, on Facebook, on Blue Sky. Jump into the Discord. Any questions or you want us to talk about anything? We do have a mailbag specifically in the Discord, but you can also throw us an email, cdunewberg@gmail.com. Thank you guys for thank you guys for watching us this week. We'll see you up in the tap room for the next watch party or right here again on our next show. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Have a good one.